from the same comic publisher and movie studio that gave us Superman and Batman, delivered us Steel back in 1997. Now I think it's a safe bet a lot of you watching aren't even aware of this film, and to be honest, even now, I don't think I'd be aware of it that much had it not been for the Nostalgia Critic review on it, which I watched growing up. But let's cut to the chase. This is among the worst superhero movies ever made, but not even in an angering or maddening way, sort of like the folks reacted to, say, The Green Lantern or Joss Whedon's Justice League. It's almost so pathetic that it's not even worth it, and you can't help but feel a little sorry for it. It doesn't help that this came out at the worst time possible, where comic book movies were dying a death, and this was essentially the last straw, the cherry on top, getting negative reviews and bombing hard at the box office, not even grossing an eighth of its relatively low $60 million budget. Ouch. At least Batman and Robin is so bonkers it's memorable, but this was a whole load of nothing. But I'll also be fair, this is a lesser known hero that doesn't exactly have a wide dedicated fan base, so there was less to ruin, I guess. So yeah, it's bad, but it's an amusing guilty pleasure of sorts to an extent. Emphasis on to an extent. Shaquille O'Neal plays Steel himself, aka John Henry Irons. This is when the NBA star was trying his damnedest to make a career out of acting, and yeah, not happening. Well, at least not in roles like this. The guy has the look and the build for the part, but he is so stilted and awkward and wooden. Apart from one or two slight bright spots, he isn't the least bit convincing. In real life, he can definitely be charismatic and have a sense of humour. Just look at he and Barkley going at it on Inside the NBA. But too bad none of that is featured here. I can't take him seriously as a scientific mind. As a soldier, he stands out way too much. And oh my god, as a crime fighter, he is worthless. He's got some neat tools in his arsenal, but he lumbers around, makes stupid mistakes constantly, and gets his ass beat 90% of the time. Also, he looks really ridiculous in that suit. It's meant to be made of steel, but it looks cheap, and the mask is clearly rubber with the way it shimmies and bends. Oh lord, downright pathetic. Now, I've not read any of the original material or whenever the characters in any spin-offs that he's featured in, but just at a glance, I can already tell he is way cooler in nose than he is here. Annabeth Gish is wasted here as Susan Sparks, aka Sparky. Thankfully she got plenty of solid TV parts later on, but this ain't good. But the funny thing is, from her accident, to her rebuilding her life, to her smart know-how and techniques and how to tackle crime, she would have been way more interesting as the superhero. And that modified wheelchair at the end, with the lasers and stuff, genuinely kicks ass. We could have gotten her, but instead, we're stuck with lumpy Steel. Another waste of a great talent here, Richard Roundtree. Shaft himself is Uncle Joe, who, number 1, shows up with zero introduction, and number 2, like Steel, so lame, and his jokes and his dialogue are awful. Sorry Richard, but damn right I could not dig you here. A young Ray J plays Martin, who's like a hip 90s caricature, so of the time, but he is annoying. And Irma Hall, who I just realised was Marva Munson in the remake of The Ladykillers. She's a grandma. She brings some spunk, but her biggest contribution is a bizarre subplot about her trying to perfect a souffle. Okay. John Nelson? Oh dear. He's the baddie, Nathaniel Burke. Not the most threatening of comic book villain names, I must say. He and his plan are altogether generic, and it feels like Nelson is just phoning it in. It would have been more entertaining if he played it like the wacko cop in New Jack City. Although his gang of hired goons aren't that far off. They're so goddamn loud and off their heads. The complete opposite of subtlety. How these guys didn't get caught sooner is a miracle. Charles Napier shows up too as the Colonel, probably the most stereotypical, raging, war-hungry Colonel that you'll see in a film, to the point of parody. The only character that stood out to me that I actually sort of liked was Singer, Burke's commanding second-hand guy, especially with his cool, deep voice. Then it dawned on me much later, it's Raze from the Underworld films, played by the co-creator Kevin Greavix. I feel so dumb for not noticing that. But yeah, I like him. And this high-pitched scream right before his death, courtesy of that grenade, is by far the highlight of the whole thing. Just that one little moment. Oh, by the way, don't grenades usually go off in like 10 seconds max? This one took nearly a minute, which, come on. Suspension of disbelief can only take you so far, and all just purely to pay off the weak running joke of Irons not being able to shoot basketball. You know, a little wink to the fact that Shaq, supposedly, couldn't land free throws to save his life. Hardy har har. So, I've mainly trashed this picture. Do I actually have any positives worth mentioning? Well, there is some adequate action now and again, although nothing that comes close to spectacular. And while the musical score makes no impression, the main signature theme is actually quite catchy and gets stuck in my head, even if it rings a little too close to Indiana Jones. But still, I was a fan of it. And speaking of music, this was produced by Quincy Jones of all people. Huh. Well, not a sound investment, I'm afraid, for old Quincy. Steel is a fascinating kind of bad movie. The sort that has you sighing and questioning it over the mix of the basic done-to-death cliches, surreal oddness, and multiple spurts of stupidity. At least it's short, but even then it is often a boring drag. If you're curious at all, especially if you're a comic book fan, maybe give it a look. Although if you want a product from Shaq that's bad but is actually memorable and makes some kind of lasting impact, I'd say go watch Kazam. Or better yet, play Shaq Fu. And remember, eat the hot dog. Don't be one. I'm Jason, and this is Small Movie World. Watching, talking, and loving films.